The Closed Sky is intended for adult audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The Closed Sky, Part 2. I prepare on Nullday as thoroughly as I can. The commission begins on Arden, which means today is all the time I have. I tug my collar closed and walk to the provision store on my cut. The transition canopy reads overcast, gray-white, in the way that means rain somewhere above, and cold air moving down through the causeway. Drosspire shops keep their doors open more often than the rest of the city, because the residents here have learned to read the canopy's scent before they look up to confirm it. And the provision store is no different. The door stands ajar when I arrive. The threshold creaks. The owner is mid-sentence when I enter. He looks up, nods once in my direction, and continues without pause, folding me into the conversation as though I had been there all along. He is a big man, broad through the shoulders, in the way of someone who has moved heavy things for long enough that it stopped being effort and became simply the shape of him. Bald head, a dark beard worn full and curled close, and thick eyebrows that do a significant portion of his communicating for him. He has a copy of the Ink and Dagger open on the counter, one hand flat on the page, eyebrows pulled together at the center and shifted down at the outer edges, the expression of a man who has been mid-complaint since before I arrived and has decided my entrance is not going to interrupt it. He turns the paper so I can see the front section as I approach the counter. The capture print is still settling. The Loomspire fiber holds motion longer than cheaper stock. I look at it the way I look at most things I am not sure I want to see, long enough to know what is there. A boy, caught by a crystal eye near one of the residential corridors in the Hearthway Promenade. He is almost around the corner, the image fixing at the precise moment before he disappears entirely. Small details in the frame, the kind that tells you someone was looking for exactly this. I file what I see, and I put it where I put things I cannot do anything about. It is not that I do not care. It is that I am already carrying something larger, and I only have a certain capacity for dread, and acknowledging this would tip me over what I have to give. The commission is this Arden, and that is all I have room to care about. Another one missing, the owner says, his field expression spiking at the edges with a heat I read as simmering rage. A child this time, and what's being done about it? I have been coming to this store nearly every week since I moved to this stretch, and I have learned that this is his register. Confirmed facts posed as questions, waiting for someone to push back or agree, either being acceptable. His eyebrows make the preference clear. I look back at him and nod. At the hearthstop, a woman finishes preparing something herbal, stirring the contents, then pressing a lid onto the paper cup. She is attractive in the specific way of someone who is not thinking about it at all. Short curls, warm brown skin, brown eyes that have already decided where they are going next. A neck tattoo disappears beneath her collar. I note her posture as I move past her to reach the draw-dried fruit. She moves like she has somewhere better to be, and has been enduring this conversation well before I arrived. I move back toward the counter at the same moment she does and gesture for her to go ahead. She waves a thanks and moves on. She sets 2 lenses on the counter, raising the cup in her hand as a gesture that it's all she's purchasing, and is already turning when she says it. Yeah, sure, but they ain't right if they come back either. The owner opens his mouth and stops himself as he watches her go. His eyebrows adjust into something that reads as resigned, the expression of a man who has learned the world does not always stop to engage and has made a certain peace with it. I set down the packs of draw-dried fruit and ask for 5 folds of ruchel and 2 boxes of charcoal, both kept behind the counter. He nods and moves to retrieve them, the ink and dagger still open between us. When he returns and begins wrapping the ruchel, he picks up where he left off, the ink and dagger, one of the last publications that says the thing plainly, with the everyday resident in mind. The convergence has not touched the story. The dross line runs updates on the disappearances only after beat 27, when most of the city is asleep and fewer people think to ask follow-up questions. The only places saying anything honest about them, and about the shape of what is actually known, are the ink and dagger, the Dagger Hour broadcast, and the gray channels of the EchoNet. I agree with him, because I do agree, and because his voice has the quality of wanting to be met rather than managed. I also agree because I have been in the tangle long enough to know what ordinary strange looks like. The Undercity has its anomalies, corridors that read inconsistently, field-set stone that holds nothing where it should hold something. The Tangle has more of these than most areas, which is part of why it is the Tangle and not something with a more respectable name. 2 years of personal survey work have given me a thorough catalog of its particular oddities, and I have learned to treat them the way any working practitioner treats the city's stranger qualities, as conditions, not conclusions. People disappear from the Undercity. People reappear. This has always been true. The causeway runs in both directions. Practitioners travel, relocate, lose contact, and resurface. None of that is new, and none of it is alarming by itself. What is new is what comes back. They are present and accounted for, alive, as far as anyone can measure, but not the same. The Dagger Hour has been running accounts for months, people who knew someone who came back, and the details do not contradict each other in the way you would expect if they were rumors. I have caught enough of it to know what they are reporting. Nothing anyone can agree on, but accounts that keep landing on the same conclusion. A field expression that reads off, a person who moves through a room as if trying to remember how. That is not the Undercity's ordinary strangeness. That is something else. I put that where I put the boy in the image. Same shelf, same problem. As other patrons enter, I pay with my line card and move to leave. Behind me, as I reach for the door, the owner calls after me, "Take care of yourself, Red." My hand rises behind me in a half wave as I hear him carry on with the next patron. When I return home, I move to my next task, laundry. I gather my clothes from every corner of the apartment. It has been 2 weeks since I last did laundry, and not only do I need clean things for the commission, but I am running low on options, particularly underwear options, which is a problem I can no longer ignore and have waited slightly too long to address. The slate pings while I am on my knees, fishing a sock from under the bed. I have a suspicion of what it is before I cross the room to check. The notification appears in the center of the screen. Payment received. Tender. Account confirmed. I read it twice. The way I read things I already understand, but need a moment to accept. Something in my chest settles in the wrong direction. I set the slate back on the desk, face down, and return to the sock. The clothes have distributed themselves across surfaces I cannot fully account for, which, at this particular moment, is a more manageable problem than the one I have just confirmed. I ignore the slate on my desk as I prepare to leave. I pick up the settling record instead, partly because it has been sitting unread since it arrived 2 days ago, and anything is better than thinking about the commission. I tuck the book under my arm and haul the laundry bag downstairs. The wash hall has 3 other people in it. 2 men in the corner argue in whispers over who is folding the laundry when they get home, one insisting he is not going to do it, the other apparently deciding that kissing the exposed areas of the first man's neck is a more efficient negotiating strategy than continued discussion. I shift on the bench and try to focus on the book. The words do not stick. I look elsewhere. An older woman sits at the far end of the same bench, both of us along the wall opposite the washers, her finger moving along the surface of a crystal communicator, so slowly that I cannot tell whether she is reading or simply thinking with her hand. I watch her the way I watch most things I do not personally have access to, with the detached appreciation of someone who has made her peace with a limitation. Communicators run on the EchoNet's active signal layer, sustained field connection in real time, the standard through which most of the city handles its daily correspondence. Most of the city, not all of it. My field signature has communicated its objection to crystal communicators through 3 separate attempts at sustained use, each producing headaches significant enough that I eventually noticed I was leaving it at home deliberately, and that the clarity on the days I did was not a coincidence. Adesse finds this inconvenient. So do most people who want to reach me quickly. I glance at my echo clip, clipped at my hip, a device that passively captures signals without requiring sustained field connection, which my signature tolerates without complaint. It is slower. It is adequate. I have learned to work within adequate. I try the book again. The words still do not stick. Between the giggling from the corner and the commission lodged at the back of my thoughts, like a stone, I have decided not to turn over. The page might as well be blank. I set the settling record face down on the bench beside me and watch my clothes spin and wait, which is the closest I get to mindful rest. When I return home, I hang everything on the heated drying rack in my living room, confident it will all be dry by Arden. I move to my desk, pick up the slate, and swipe away the tender notification still sitting on the screen from earlier, and open the map of the tangle, the route from my cut to the commission's location. I scan it, tracing the path until it settles in my head, and put the slate down. The next task is packing. I work through my checklist with the diligence of someone who has forgotten field equipment before, more recently than I would like to admit. Once, 3 days into a commission in the Portfall district, I arrived without my impression tablets or field slate. Impression tablets are wax-set surfaces in a wooden frame, essence-worked so the wax softens under intentional thought and firms again once the impression is placed. Mine are mid-range. A circuit runs through the wood, keeping everything connected to the EchoNet in real time, edits included. None of it works without a field signature, which made it almost funny that the only person available to help me was a Nullborn surveyor working the adjacent corridor. She took pity on me and lent me a pen and a small pile of paper. I am not Nullborn. Nullborn practitioners carry no field signature of their own, which means impression-based tools are simply inert in their hands. Impression tablets fall squarely into this category. In place of tablets, when a field slate is not available, they work with ink and paper by necessity, not preference. I had never considered this a relevant professional detail until I was standing in the Portfall district with no tablets, no slate, and a Nullborn surveyor looking at me with the patient expression of someone who has watched this particular problem before. I had not written a survey finding by hand in my professional life. I recorded a full day's findings in handwriting smaller than was comfortable, the pen adding ink to my already stained hands, the letters cramped and graceless in a way that impression tablets do not permit. Not my best work, not something I intend to repeat, which is why I place the tablets next to my bag before I move on to anything else. I pack the draw-dried fruit I bought earlier into the front pocket of my travel bag. Small and sour sweet, the kind of thing that answers hunger without requiring thought. Alongside it, 3 folds of ruchel, dense strips of sink-raised meat, the particular mineral weight of something raised entirely underground, the kind of provision you eat one piece at a time without breaking stride. I know the weight of a properly stocked front pocket. This feels right. The commission folio noted provisions would be arranged at the estate. I pack food anyway. My mother was a senior Karav at the Vale of Mere, compound work, and patient rounds, the kind of position that kept its hours whether she wanted it to or not. She kept us housed and fed on what that brought in. I understood early that the household ran on her, though what that running cost her took me longer to recognize. What I recognized, sooner, was where the crystal tender went. My father's habit found where she kept it the way a high-level Thalen practitioner sometimes could, by feeling for what is missing, the shape of the lenses, the essence of them, letting the earth in them draw him the rest of the way when it chose to. Most times, he found it before she could spend it on anything the household needed. The times he did not find it first were not quieter. He made enough noise that the neighbors learned to ignore the shouts. My mother learned it was cheaper to give him what he wanted, rather than letting the situation go further than necessary. I learned early not to be particular about food, and I learned equally early not to count on it being there. The 2 lessons have served me well in the field. Some things you carry because you have to. Some things you carry because you have decided not to find out what happens if you don't. I put on the necklace before I pack anything else. I do not wear jewelry. I am not going to risk it. With everything done to my satisfaction, I wash first, then fill the bath and get in. The water stays warm longer than it has any reason to. I do not think about the commission. I think about Neva. Not deliberately. In the way a loose thread catches without warning, the way field-set stone mineralizes around what it has held long enough. First her face, then the dented corner of her kit, sitting on Adessa's desk where it had no right to be. The particular shape of the silence that followed Adessa's sentence, the one that ended with difficulties. I have sat across from Neva many times in the 3 years before this commission, and I have noticed things I have not named. The stillness that comes over her when a survey area finally resolves into a complete map, the way she goes quiet in the moment, before she speaks. I told myself there would be time to unpack my feelings later. I was wrong about the time, and I am only now, sitting in cooling water, allowing myself to feel what that costs. The weight of that sits wrong in a way I recognize, the same way the kit sat wrong in my bag on the journey home on Carven evening, the same way the idea of never seeing her again sits wrong in a place I do not have a name for. The water cools around me. I stay past the point where it is comfortable, because moving means beginning, and I am not yet ready for what this commission may uncover. When I get out, I put on underwear and a simple oversized shirt and tell myself I am done for the night. Then, because not reviewing it would bother me more than reviewing it, I pick up the slate and pull up the commission files. My eyes move across what I already know. My stomach turns. I scan the rest with less attention than the work deserves. I think about Neva again. Not the Neva of the bath, soft and unresolved, but the Neva who came into the circle during a bad cold, with a guard veil over her nose and mouth, and her survey bag on her shoulder, because she is the kind of practitioner who does not leave a commission unfinished and does not allow anyone else to sign off in her place. I have always admired that about her, though at this moment, I admire it less when I consider what it implies about the sign-off in the folio. I put the slate down. Whatever is waiting in that estate can wait until Arden. I cannot bring myself to continue. I note this and go to bed. I sleep through the turn, that quiet beat 30, when Nullday stops belonging to the week behind you and starts belonging to the one ahead. The commission can wait until I wake to feel real. The scramble on Arden is, in retrospect, inevitable. I wake late on the 8th beat, pack too fast between sips of dark water and bites of draw-dried fruit, and repack twice after finding the impression tablet binders in a neat pile beside my bag rather than inside it. The charcoal has migrated across 3 pockets in a way that bears no resemblance to my original system. The draw-dried fruit and ruchel have kept their position. I consider this a correct decision and leave them where they are. The 2 survey kits go in last. Neva's kit settles into the document sleeve the way it did the first time I tested it. Wrong. Its weight pulling the bag off center. The strap almost settling, but never quite right. I adjust it. Again. It does not help. I leave anyway. At the threshold, I stop and look up. The transition canopy reads clear, a pale, true blue that belongs to the surface, not the Undercity. I know what clear skies are supposed to mean. I look away. Children pass me in the corridor, talking loudly as they make their way to the academy. One of them cuts ahead and disappears around the corner before they can catch up, laughing at something I cannot hear. I think about the boy in the capture print, the way the image was fixed at the precise moment before he was gone. I settle the bag against my hip, trying to find a comfortable position that eases the wrongness of the weight, and walk to the spine platform. The vibration comes up through the floor as the train approaches. I walk faster, knowing I have less than a slant, and take the station steps down 2 at a time. The platform opens in front of me, warm lit, half full, practitioners standing with the particular shiftiness of people who are somewhere between where they were and where they are going. I find a place among them. The stone tells me the train is close before the lights do. A breath later, it pulls in. The doors open. Practitioners exit, then enter. I board with them, knowing I am one step closer to answers I am not sure I am ready for. The Closed Sky is an original dark fantasy audio series by LeonaCrimsyn. If you want to know what happens next, follow the Crimsyn archives and come back when the next part drops. Thanks for listening. Until next time.